Oh, that sounds great.
No.
On the west coast of America.
Electronics, Entertainment, Expo.
This is Livewire.
Ah, coffee. That's the manna from the gods. How are you, Jeremy?
Hey, I'm pretty good.
And am I pronouncing your name properly if I pronounced it Stieglitz?
Close enough.
What is it?
Stieglitz, technically.
Stieglitz?
Yeah.
It's the first time I've ever heard that last name pronounced that way. I knew an Alfred Stieglitz.
Yeah, right. Actually, I think I'm related to him.
Are you really? But
yeah.
You just decided to change the pronunciation of the last name, huh?
Someone somewhere did.
Stieglitz. And what do you do for Artificial Studios?
I'm lead developer there.
Very cool. So tell us about Monster Madness out on a bunch of platforms.
Sure. Monster Madness is a game we're developing with Unreal Engine 3 right now for PC, and we're in the process of getting our approval for PS3 and Xbox 360. Okay. It's kind of a throwback to a earlier day of gaming with action being the main focus. In fact, top-down action, specifically the old style of arcade games with, Smash TV and Zombies Ate My Neighbors, that type of stuff. And
very cool.
It really emphasizes cooperative multiplayer where four people on one machine can just have a bunch of different types of monsters in these stylized suburban environments.
I see the ragdoll physics is being used on the breasts. A lot of bouncing breasts in this game.
Yeah, exactly. That was at least a month spent on that.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
If I were you, I'd spend as much time on it as you did too. What the heck? You were telling us how the game is played. Tell us what the deal is.
Sure. The key concept of this game is that you can, like any first-person shooter, you can move in one direction and look in another using the dual analog sticks. And so it's really emphasizing gunplay, but from a top-down perspective, so that you can have 4 players in the game without having to split the screen. So you're just strafing all over the place, rotating and shooting monsters with a bunch of different types of weapons.
You have been working on this for how long?
This actually build is only a month old.
Wow.
We just got working with Unreal Engine 3, and I have only good things to say about it. It's a really good piece of technology. So we're able to get up and running pretty quickly with it.
And when are you due out?
This game's hopefully going to come out in February 2007. Pretty quick development cycle.
Wow. Now, being lead designer, what are you doing today? What are you spending your days doing right now?
Well, now I'm just trying.
It looks like you've got a bunch of the characters already nailed.
This is true. Right now, coming back from E3, we're really focusing on the single-player campaign. We got kind of our core mechanics in place. The first thing you do will make sure that the action works properly and the animations are synchronized properly, all that stuff. Once you have the basics down, you really got to start focusing on content and putting in all the levels that are actually going to make the game that somebody would, consider buying. So we're looking forward to going through all the levels in the game, figuring out what the objectives are going to be, putting the plot points in place, and that takes a substantial amount of time.
Tell me about the sound in the game.
Sure. The game's sound is definitely emphasizing a cartoony kind of stylized feel to it. The music is very silly, yet it has its action moments. The game's not too mature in its tone. We're trying to aim for a reasonable teen plus rating, so we're trying to keep the music fast-paced yet not too serious. We're not trying to scare anyone with the game, even though technically you are fighting monsters, various horror cliches.
Very cartoon violence.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Over the top.
Yeah, very cool. So let's go to the chat rooms and see what we have there for questions from people.
Oh, yeah. So some people are wondering about the kinds of weapons and things that you can create. Kind of what possibilities are you guys shooting for there? Because what I read about the game seems like you're kind of going for a really kind of open-ended, kind of grab what you can see, put it together and use it to battle with.
This is definitely the case. In the multiplayer online mode, which you'll be able to play the game online, and also in deathmatch, there you'll just find these fully assembled weapons because you won't have the time to build them. But in the single-player campaign mode, actually, which can be played cooperatively, you actually do have to build all your weapons. You don't start the game with anything. The very first level, you'll grab whatever household appliance is on hand and hopefully use that as a weapon. A saw or a plunger or whatever you can find in your house when you start getting attacked. As you go further in the game, you're going to find little component parts that can be used to assemble bigger and better weapons, nail guns, eventually Gatling guns and rocket launchers. Those component parts will be standard household stuff: nails, gasoline, adhesive tape, scrap metal, and then at the end of every level you'll have an interface where you can spend those component parts and use them to build new weapons and purchase upgrades for the ones that you have. So we're definitely trying to create some kind of an RPG feel. You won't directly level up your character, but you will get stronger over the course of the game by building better weapons.
Gotcha. Are you guys doing any play testing yet on this thing, or?
Yeah, we're heavy right now into refining the mechanics and getting the online play as tweaked as we can. The online play is still in the early stages, so that's going to be a pretty big focus in the coming months. Really looking forward, especially we're trying to get a lot of community feedback about what directions we should take various modes of the game. We really want to try and make this game, good for people who have nostalgia about the old school of games, and also graphically pleasing enough so that it fits firmly within the next generation.
I'm just kind of curious during the playtesting. I mean, we've talked a little bit about the way that the weapon combos kind of come together. If you guys have seen, even in the playtesting, kind of some novel things that people are doing, or have some great stories of, things that you've seen your testers doing that have surprised you a little bit.
Sure. Definitely. One of the most unpredictable weapons in the game is the flamethrower, and there's all sorts of crazy combinations you can do with it. You could, say, light someone on fire and then throw a bomb to finish them off, or you might use a razor-tipped CD launcher to bounce CDs all around the map and kill someone around a corner. This is just in the deathmatch mode where you're fighting against other players. When you're fighting against monsters, pretty much all bets are off because each monster has really unique behavior. It's not really a hack-and-slash game. It's more of a pure action game. So there are some enemies that will run at you and blow themselves up, and you have to be really careful of those guys. And there are other enemies that will stay back and throw ranged attacks at you. And so you're really finding that the different weapons each have their place in fighting different types of enemies. And definitely want to be careful of the flamethrower, though. It's really unpredictable.
I hear that about flamethrowers. So, go ahead, David.
Do they spawn randomly? It seems like there's cutscenes where they spawn, or is that just the way your trailer's edited?
Sometimes they'll spawn randomly as you just move through the environment unexpectedly. There are other times where you'll be locked into a specific area of the map. Gates will come up, or barriers will spring up, or something dynamic in the environment might happen to lock you into an arena for a particular length of time. And you just have to fight off a wave after wave of monsters until your path is cleared for one reason or another. Gotcha. And the key point there is at certain times we really want to ratchet up the tension and force players to absolutely fight for their lives. You can't avoid the enemies. You just have to survive for a certain length of time.
Cool.
Excellent. So you did mention that there was some deathmatch mode, and a lot of questions in the chat room about online multiplayer. Do you want to get into that a little bit?
Sure. There's really two types of multiplayer in the game. There's the competitive offline deathmatch, which focuses on these arena battles, kind of like Smash Bros. With a fixed camera perspective, limited arena space, and you're kind of just stuck in this environment with 3 other players, and you just have to kill them over and over again, to get the most points or before the match ends. Then that's quite different from the actual online mode, where it's just 1 player per console, and the camera follows you specifically throughout a larger environment. So you'll be running around this pretty big environment, and it'll support up to 16 players for 2 team games, and the camera follows you as you. Really the 2 modes that we're looking at right now are capture the flag and team deathmatch. And the advantage to the online mode is we're really able to ramp up the scale of the environments and introduce vehicles, which is not in this early build, but we're definitely Unreal Engine 3 has a lot of good vehicle support, and we know our physics programming, so we're looking forward to having vehicles in the online mode that you can use cooperatively with other players.
You had a pretty precise release date, considering some of the things we've been getting from the other developers. February of next year?
That's what we're looking at. I only think it's possible, and we're only looking at that date because we're using Epic's Unreal technology, which allows us to not worry so much about the low-level technical issues, which we know. I mean, we're not lightweight programmers, but it allows us really to focus on the game design, so we're off the ground running.
All right, are we going to keep him for another segment?
We are. We're going to keep him for another segment to talk about another game called Cell Factor.
Awesome. Stay tuned. More with Jeremy Steiglitz. I get it right there? So today's going to be the day where I just have to get everybody's name over and over and over again.
Yes.
Jeremy Steiglitz from Artificial Studios. It's Livewire from IGN and GameSpy.
But he never ever knew how he came through. Do the best you can do if this happened to you, and understand all the words that I'm rapping to you. Understand